Who are six veteran running backs likely to be adversely affected by the results of the 2023 NFL Draft based on decisions by their teams? It's time to break it down right here and right now as we begin another edition of Locked On Fantasy Football.
Are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about fantasy football and the NFL for SportingNews.com. Check out the 2023 NFL mock drafts I have up. I keep updating them. I have a full 7-rounder, and then I updated that with a 3-rounder. I have a first round with trades, and we're going to have a final 3-rounder that's going to be up right before the first round kicks off on Thursday night live, April 27th from Kansas City. So excited to see what those picks will bring, especially the infusion of new offensive skill talent. That includes the running backs. So we want to look at 6 veterans that should be a little bit nervous based on their team situations that they're going to go after a running back rather early in the draft, potentially as a lead back or at least the top of a committee to get the key touches in these backfields, either as runners or receivers. So we will examine those teams, essentially 6 teams that are most interested that you think to take action on running back sooner rather than later, earlier in this draft. So we'll break those down for you. We have a half dozen teams and players to look at there for you. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen today. Subscribe and follow for free wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Special shout out to the everydayers. You're here checking out our show every time we put up a new one. And if you're new to the show, welcome. And we're going to give you the best offseason insight you can get for fantasy football here as we await the draft and all the good stuff that is going to change the course of fantasy football for this year and beyond. All right, let's dive right into the team that's most attached to changing a running back here. And that means Rashaad Penny should be worried because the Eagles are not going to rely on Rashaad Penny to be their healthy feature back. That is the least thing that he has done in his career. He's run for a good chunk of yardage when he's got a good offensive line. But in terms of really staying out there and durable as a workhorse, you can't trust Rashaad Penny. I know they have Kenneth Gainwell, who's flashed a little bit. You have Boston Scott, rather reliable, is kind of a swing veteran backup, does a little bit of everything well. But the Eagles are definitely in the market for Bijan Robinson. They have 2 interesting picks in this draft, number 10 and number 30 in the first round. And they have some flexibility there. Could they move up from 30 to go get Bijan Robinson? Should they take him as high as number 10? There's been rumors of that as well. So it's not looking good for Rashaad Penny overall. They also are very interested in Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama, so they could wait late to take Gibbs in the first round. Should he still be on the board? There's some other backs that are possible to be leads in this draft, but I think the Eagles are definitely going to walk away with one of these guys, Robinson, Gibbs. It would shock me if one of them is not an Eagle by the end of this draft. More so, some team will come in and snipe that pick away from the Eagles, but they do need to address the backfield. So regardless, Rashaad Penny, things are not looking good for him. And the lead back status of the Eagles, more contingency because they lost Miles Sanders. We know he signed with the Carolina Panthers, so they need someone on early downs to run. Sanders did not catch a lot of passes. Penny, that's not his strength either. So they have Gainwell for that role. So they might lean power back if it's not a Robinson or Gibbs. You have Roschon Johnson who can do that as well. You got some other backs, so you can look at it. I think Zach Evans or Eric Gray, those are more type change of pace type backs. But you can look later in the draft and get some value there. So Eagles are going to come away with a running back. Again, would not surprise me if they go early, whether it's early, very early in the first round or later in the first round, or trade down a little bit to get Gibbs. So they're in the wheelhouse for both running backs. And again, Rashaad Penny on high alert to be replaced immediately. It's going to be a short-lived time, I think, as the Eagles starter. Now, the Detroit Lions said goodbye to Jamal Williams, who was a touchdown scoring machine last year, but they replaced him with a division rival's former back, David Montgomery of the Bears. So they have Montgomery and Swift. Sounds like an old-time actor here, Montgomery Swift. But when we look at the Lions here, they're also tied to Bijan Robinson. They also have 2 first-round picks here. They also could go after Jahmyr Gibbs. There's a lot of things the Lions are interested in, but they've been attached greatly to Bijan Robinson. Why? Much like the Eagles, they are in a position of luxury, believe it or not. Yes, the Eagles won the NFC, but the Lions should have been a playoff team. They were above 500 last year. Just the circumstances there of their division didn't work out. But here, when you look at the Lions, they were the better team than the Buccaneers. Probably should have been in the playoffs again in a different type of system, but now they can go after running back. Really, their offense is loaded. Even with the Jameson Williams news coming down with the suspension, they've got him on Rashaad Brown. They got a lot of weapons here. They should also be in the market to upgrade receiving. They also brought back Marvin Jones as a bit of a contingency there after losing DJ Chark. So again, their offense looks pretty good. Their offensive line, at least one more year intact of elite play. So when I look at the Detroit Lions, definitely a team that can displace DeAndre Swift. So Swift also a free agent in 2024. They're not really happy with his durability. His availability has been really bad here in Detroit. And that's why they got Montgomery. He can move with everything well, but not special. And it also says Montgomery would be a pretty decent backup overall. And Swift could be a limited change of pace as receiving back behind Bijan Robinson or Gibbs. Gibbs is a very good receiver in his own right as well. But both these guys are 3-down type backs. So Eagles and Lions, not great news for Rashaad Penny and DeAndre Swift, who had a lot of fantasy football value just a couple years ago down the stretch here. So interested to see what those teams do, but those are teams most attached to running back early, a.k.a. Robinson and Gibbs. We will get into 4 more teams that could shake up their backfields big time here in the 2023 NFL Draft. The Eagles and Lions most likely do it, but 4 other teams also in the mix to do that, and watch for Robinson, Gibbs, among other early running backs. So we'll break that down in our next segment for you. Grand slams, no-hitters, and double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than with FanDuel Sportsbook. If you didn't know this, FanDuel Sportsbook is America's #1 sportsbook, the official sponsor of MLB. That's because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockdown to sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. You can bet on all kinds of things. You can look at Mike Trout and what he can do at the plate, or Shohei Ohtani, and see if they're going to deliver with a home run. You could also flip it on Ohtani and see if he goes over on his strikeouts in one of his starts. Also exciting because you can build interesting single-game parlays with your favorite matchup of the day, including player, props, and game results. So all kinds of good stuff there. And also, don't forget about the NFL Draft. There's some things that you can look at there as well. So don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball and a proud sponsor here of the Locked On Network. We will continue the show here looking at 4 more running backs who should be worried about the results of the 2023 NFL Draft, and also looking at new blood that's going to help fantasy football in the backfield for 6 potential teams here on the show. Speaking of drafts and mock drafts, Locked On NFL mock draft specials here. It's bigger than ever. Follow along as all 32 teams' first picks are made in a 6-episode ultimate mock draft experience. Only Locked On can deliver. All episodes are available now to check out on Locked On NFL Draft on the YouTube channel or wherever you listen and subscribe and follow to your podcasts. All right. Thanks again for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It's time to get into our next team, and it's the Buffalo Bills. Yep, they're in the market as well for running back. They did sign Damien Harris, and they also have James Cook. So really, it's a double thing to look at here with Harris and Cook. Needing to be a little bit worried. They could go after Robinson or Gibbs. If they can't get either of those, they're going to look at a power back, obviously, with Cook being a good change of pace with his receiving skills. But I don't trust for a moment that Damien Harris, also injured a lot for the Patriots, coming over and staying in the division, is going to stay healthy for his rival Bills here at this point. So I still see the Bills in the market for a pretty good investment running back. I like Devin Achane to maybe be the change of pace, or Tyjae Spears. Those type of backs would fit nicely here. And really they can be holding down the fort on early downs here and get a little bit more versatility and explosiveness than the backfield they have now with Harris. Cook can make some plays here, and maybe they'll lean a little bit on Cook, but Harris I would definitely be worried about after they replaced Devin Singletary with him. And James Cook, again, being on alert depending on the type of back they get. If it's Gibbs or Robinson, I think it's more of a three-down situation there, and it really kills the value of those guys. And I would say Harris is probably going to be a red zone type backup there, and Cook will be the receiving backup if that materializes for Buffalo. Another team that has not been shy about potentially adding the backfield is Harris's former team, the New England Patriots. Yeah, they're in the market apparently for Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't think they'll go after Bijan Robinson way too high here in the first round. You can't rule it out because they're picking number 14 overall, but they do have Rhamondre Stevenson, so they might be less inclined to force things on Robinson here because of the way Stevenson played. It's a bit of surprise, maybe a bit of smoke screen here, but I think the Patriots are serious in needing another back here. They don't want to give the whole load to Stevenson, and we know that the power back system has a bit of value there for the Patriots, so watch out for them making this move for sure. So, again, don't sleep on the Patriots. Remember, the one certainty about the Patriots backfield, it's always in motion. It's always changing, and whatever you believe in fantasy football, don't lock into because it can change very quickly. So if we believe Rhamondre Stevenson is, he's good to go, he's an RB1, there's no question about it, there's more likelihood that that won't happen, and he'll have to share the backfield again with a back more capable than Harris here in 2023. So there you have a look at two more teams that could really change the course of their backfields here. And again, on alert for these situations for the Bills, Damien Harris and James Cook, Rhamondre Stevenson. So don't lock into their fantasy values too much yet here. And we'll get into two more teams that also are thinking about taking running back early. And it might surprise you because they seem okay at running back, but and teams are always going to look to upgrade, especially if they're changing up their offensive philosophies or wanting to build on it a little bit better from last year. All right, before we continue and close the show, I do have to tell you that this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is therapy online, and it's going to help you get to know yourself. And we know it can be a lifelong process, but you need a roadmap and a guide along the way because we're always growing and changing. Therapy is all about deepening your self-awareness and understanding because sometimes we don't know what we want or why we react the way that we do until we talk through things with a professional. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on that journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. It's fantastic to benefit from therapy. I've done that as well, both virtually and in person. So I've had that experience. It's fantastic. And just someone to talk to again, get on the right track. If you're a little bit lost, there the people that are going to give you that direction. So really, it's great. It's a good way to learn positive coping skills, how to set boundaries, empowers you to take on anything that comes your way with challenges in life. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, I would really strongly suggest giving BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, so it's comfortable there. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So make sure you check out BetterHelp. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp. That's HELP. BetterHelp.com/lockedon. Please check it out and get that offer there that you can get for online therapy. All right, it is time to close the show looking at two more teams that could change the course of their backfield here in the 2023 NFL Draft by investing early in running back. Next up is the Atlanta Falcons. They've been rumored as a sneaky team for Bijan Robinson. You might ask, that's kind of weird. Tyler Algier was pretty effective as a late-round pick out of BYU last year, so pretty good there. They got Cordell Patterson, but who's going to remind you of that hammer to carry an offense? And where did Arthur Smith come from? He came from Tennessee, and they had Derrick Henry, that hammer, that guy that they could trust here, build the offense around his talents. So I don't think you can do that around Algier. I think he's a pretty good runner based on their offensive line strengths. We know they brought back Chris Lindstrom and Caleb McGarry, their two anchors on the right side for their run blocking. So I things are great there, and you have a baseline of a high floor, but are they going to push for the high ceiling? And also realize they have a young quarterback in Desmond Ridder, who also has some running ability. So upgrading the backfield is going to help him in passing game, but also help him as a runner here. So something to definitely look at here with the Falcons, maybe surprising a few folks and going in that direction. Again, Arthur Smith, bread and butter, running the ball. They want to take pressure off Desmond Ridder. They could use pass catching help as well in this position, and Algier is not very good at doing that. Patterson, we know, has done that in the past as a converted wide receiver, but not a guy that you're going to trust in that specific role out of the backfield. So when you're looking at that with the Falcons, again, they've been rumored a lot for Bijan Robinson there early in this draft. If he slips a little bit there from the top few picks, they could also jump the Lions for him. So a lot of things to watch out here, but the Falcons, an up-and-coming team there. And they could definitely look at Jahmyr Gibbs as well. So, again, I would put Tyler Algier on this list as well as the backs before. All right, two more backs we're going to put on high alert as we close the show here on Locked On Fantasy Football. The Bears, that's another team we're looking at. They do have Donta Foreman. They signed him, the former strong backup for the Titans and Derrick Henry, and then he transitioned to replacing Christian McCaffrey last year in Carolina. So now on a third team. We know the Bears lost David Montgomery, as we said earlier, to battle with and cut into the work of DeAndre Swift, as well as a potential feature back in the draft. So the Bears have a backfield here of Donta Foreman and Khalil Herbert. And Herbert has been explosive and given the opportunity. They like him playing off Justin Fields and that dominant running game there. Keep in mind, Fields is their top runner here. So maybe we want to add to that. But the Bears have also been rumored to take a running back. I don't know if they'll do that early here in the first round inside the top 10, but a little bit later, they're going to look at a guy that can maybe be a little bit more reliable than these two. And I get why they got Foreman, but he's more of a backup type for me. I think Herbert is a change of pace. He's explosive. I don't think you want to give him too many touches or he can wear down here. So Bears are definitely going to be in the market for that type of back to kind of grind through and help Fields quite a bit, not only in opening things up in the non-traditional running game, but also push the ball downfield. So really the Bears on the radar here for a running back for sure in this draft, and they're coming in at number 6. Another team that you might think that going into our honorable mention, the Buccaneers, Rashaad White looks poised for a big role here, but they moved on from Leonard Fournette, and they're not going to just sit there with one back. So keep that in mind. We always think this team is going to hand the backfield over to someone. They don't have a lot of options. There's always a chance to add another back, and we know that's frustrating. But the team that you can look at as well as the Buccaneers, then on the fringe as well, the Bengals if they move on from Joe Mixon here. So some backs that are definitely affected by the draft, and then some backs that could be replaced by veterans here as well. So honorable mention to the Bucs and Bengals here is two teams that may not force themselves the issue in the backfield, but definitely could see a change here. Not necessarily draft related. So there you have it. There's a look at, again, 16, and specifically 6 running backs who could be hurt most by the results of 23 NFL draft based on what the teams do. Thanks again for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen day. We're free and available to you on all platforms. Again, subscribe for fall for free. Every day is tomorrow on the show. Check us out here and look at the more things that we'll examine. We'll look at the wide receivers tomorrow. So we'll look at teams that are in the market most for a wide receiver and the situations that could change. So all the good stuff there that is on the show, and we will check you out tomorrow. For Locked On Fantasy Football, this has been Vinnie Iyer. Have a great day, and we'll come back tomorrow with more wide receiver draft analysis for you ahead of Thursday's first round.